Hi there everyone. I just wanted to quickly update you on Conor Howard, the Scottish man who's currently detained in Greece. I've spoken to his local lawyers over there and just briefed them on what can possibly be done to secure his bail. So hopefully he'll get that today. We're expecting to hear back in the next hour or two. The other thing is we've heard back from his MP, Kenny MacAskill in Scotland, who's just really come back so fast, and I think that's wonderful. Sometimes they take a couple of weeks to get back to us, but Kenny was right on this one and has issued the following comment that I'll read out for you. This is an abuse of a vital legal process and must be opposed. It undermines the entire system, which as a former Justice Secretary support and understand. It is not meant for minor transgressions and certainly nothing as trivial as this. I will be asking the Foreign Secretary to intervene as a matter of urgency so that Conor can come home. I mean, firstly, if Conor came back to Scotland, obviously Qatar could continue, if it had a legitimate cause, it could continue and ask Scotland to extradite him back to Qatar. So there's really no reason to keep him in Greece, and I've been in touch with the family and they've been extremely distressed. This is sort of a worst nightmare, isn't it, for parents? Conor had just gone over to visit them for a few days, have a bit of a holiday, and suddenly they're looking at Interpol red notices and extradition proceedings. It's almost unfathomable. I mean, most people haven't even heard of an Interpol red notice being for anything other than, say, terrorism or serious organised criminals. They wouldn't expect at all that their Scottish son's going to be put on Interpol by a Middle Eastern country over the carrying of a novelty gift item that he'd bought legitimately in Australia that was perfectly legal, and that could possibly land him in a Greek prison without warning, without... And of course it's a foreign prison as well. I mean, they don't speak Greek, they're having to negotiate a legal system that's probably not, well, certainly not what we're used to anyway in terms of due process. It's for extraditions, it's considered quite serious, so you would expect a more serious offender to be listed on an Interpol database, and therefore you're not going to grant bail necessarily immediately unless you're experienced. Now, some of the countries in Europe are quite experienced at dealing with red notices, and certainly the US is. So when someone arrives at an airport there and they're listed on the Interpol database, they're not necessarily going to be arrested. In fact, a lot of the time the authorities say, oh, don't worry about it, it's just a silly notice from Qatar or the UAE, and they really don't take them seriously. So it's unfortunate that Greece, even though we've seen several notices coming in from Middle Eastern countries, they've dealt with them before, but each locality is different. So Corfu has probably not seen one of these before. They haven't seen an abusive Interpol notice from Qatar. So they're going to treat it seriously as though it's an extradition request from a legitimate country. But anyway, I think it's completely a waste of taxpayer money. And I calculated this a few years ago, actually. How much is the United Kingdom spending in taxpayer money on these frivolous Interpol red notices issued by abusive countries that ultimately end up going through our judicial system at great cost? And it was way in excess of £1 million a year, actually, in the UK. And I would imagine the same for Greece. So is it really worth their commercial relations if Qatar is in turn costing them a fortune in judicial proceedings? And there's no cost at all to Qatar. They use Greek prosecutors, they use Greek local resources, and it's not like they're the wealthiest country, are they? They're using Greek resources to prosecute Conor for this ridiculous situation. And when I spoke to the lawyer, he was confused as to how this was allowed to happen. I mean, obviously it's not a crime in Greece, it's not a crime in Australia, and was not even crime enough in Qatar they actually let him go. They didn't even detain him. So how has this been allowed? It looks like possibly even an administrative error. There doesn't seem to be much purpose behind this Interpol red notice. So it's certainly in their best interest. And thank you, Kenny MacAskill MP, for raising this with the Foreign Secretary. It's certainly in the best interest of Qatar to drop this red notice as soon as possible. They've got FIFA 2022 coming up. They've already suffered a lot with coronavirus and diplomatic relations in the Middle East. So it's certainly within their best interests, given that they've now become a transport hub between Asia, Australia and Europe, to drop this really, really frivolous case. It's actually causing them a lot of damage, a lot of embarrassment, and it is causing the UK to have to diplomatically intervene, to put pressure on them to simply stop abusing their citizens. So thanks very much, and thank you again, Billy. I can see you're watching. Thank you so much for introducing us to this family. They were absolutely distraught when I spoke to them. They really thought that they were going to lose their son to a Middle Eastern country, and they're feeling a lot calmer now. Obviously, they're with their lawyer now, so they're anticipating the outcome, and I'll report that back to you. Yes. Thanks everyone. Keep you updated, and just wonderful to see the support coming from Kenny, I have to say. We've had a lot of people report that their MPs haven't been very supportive, but I think that's changing, and I think with Emma Lewell-Buck, she actually raised a question in Parliament. She really supported Robert Irwin, another person who was arrested on an Interpol red notice, and got him home to the UK. So I'm sure that Kenny's going to support us all the way through, which is great, and inspire the British government to intervene diplomatically. There's a few ways this can be resolved. That's either through the Greek authorities completely dropping the case and allowing Conor to come home to Scotland, or it's through Qatar withdrawing their extradition request, which is absolutely in the best interests of their country and certainly their diplomatic relations with Greece and the UK. And we really have to stop accepting these extradition requests from Interpol abusers, because it's costing our government a fortune. Our governments all over the world. We're talking Asia, America, Canada, and most countries in Europe as well. We're spending an absolute fortune supporting these frivolous red notices. Thanks, guys. Speak to you later.